Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Insufficient Friends. I'm Kevin. She's Nikki.
Hi. Is it delayed again? I tried to anticipate it.
Oh, it's fine. It is what it is at this point, but oh yeah, it's
We're doing well.
Man. We hope you guys had a good week. Nick,
Yeah.
how was your week?
It was good. Just worked, had a family over for a game night last Saturday, so that was
Nice.
fun.
Okay.
Now that we're actually close to them again.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It's nice to be close to them.
Okay.
That's about it. The rest of the week was just work. How about you?
Same. A lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work this week. I don't know. This week kind of seemed to drag on, which is one of those ones that's not fun. But you know, it's Friday now, so that's a plus.
It is. Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah, it needed to be Friday quickly. If you're new here, welcome. I don't do this. We don't do this very often, but if you're new here, welcome again. Ugh. This is a podcast about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
nothing and everything.
Nothing and everything. We talk about a little bit of everything. We talk about a lot of nothing. That was really bad. That was really poorly done, actually. But, you know, we're going to stick with it anyway.
I promise when we actually get into our topics, our podcast is better.
Yeah, it is. Or it tries to be. It just kind of depends.
This is kind of like if you don't have your elevator pitch mastered, like down to a T, it's hard to talk about yourself. I feel the same way about this when people ask me, like out in the wild, when people ask like about the podcast, I'm like, and I don't really have a good answer.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't have our elevator pitch down.
No, I don't have our elevator pitch down. It's more just, you know, hey, listen to Insufficient Friends. That's about it. You can find it everywhere. Because we're everywhere, which is kind of scary. But did you have any shout-outs for this week? Because I don't
think so.
Think I did, because nobody's commenting.
No.
Oh, hold on.
We do.
Okay, well, I got to hit the sounder then. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Yes. What was the shout-out, Nick?
So it wasn't a comment or anything. It was our friends, Kira and Nick, are engaged.
Oh, yes. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Congratulations, Kira.
We
Nick.
need like.
Hold on, we got fanfare.
We need to have like a rave
fanfare?
or something celebratory.
Yeah, we've
got
fanfare. Here we go.
What is that?
Crickets.
Crickets?
Yeah.
Why are we doing crickets?
I don't know. Hold on. Do we have fanfare? I think we got an applause somewhere, don't we? As you can see, we're so good at this.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. No, there it is.
Yay.
We're only like 20 seconds behind. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. But congrats to Nick and Kira.
Congrats to Nick and Kira.
I'm so excited for them.
Yes, that's great. We're happy that you guys are happy and moving on with your lives and getting you know having fun and joining together in holy matrimony and whatever. Anyway,
are you the officiant?
I don't know.
That's very like an official way to say that.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, it's been a long week and I'm kind of tired, so this might be interesting. And we're recording 3 of these back to back right now, so this is the first one, and it's gonna be interesting. But anyway, Nick, let's just get into it so that we stop sounding like fools, or at least I stop sounding like a fool. So this week we decided to talk about cults. Now, you have mentioned that you aren't familiar with a lot of them, which makes sense.
I realized. Yeah, I really wasn't. Besides, like, the Manson family, obviously, I've heard little bits and pieces about them because I like to know about like haunted history things, and so there was some stuff there. But beyond that, I really don't know that many famous or infamous. I don't know the right word to use. Cults. I feel like I know more about like the psychology side of it.
Yeah.
And so I have some of that to talk about. A lot of it's pretty straightforward, though,
Yeah.
common sense type things, but still some interesting tidbits. But yeah, I really don't know that many cults.
So I think so one of the things I noticed that I'd never really paid that much of attention to when I was watching and reading up on these and looking into them. Um, there's a few common, like really common themes. Sex is a really common theme. Doomsday is a really common theme, like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And like the new coming of the Savior is another common thing, or thinking that somebody is the coming of the Savior. Those were the common things that I seem to notice on these.
Yeah.
There's several big name cults that were notorious back in the day. Some of them are still actually around, which is crazy to think that some of these even are still kind of operating just without their leaders who,
Yeah.
were big. One of the, some of the most notable ones was like the Manson family, which killed dozens of people in the 60s, 70s, something like that.
I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
Yeah. Basically, they went on a killing spree. They killed 8 people in total, including Sharon Tate, who was an actress.
Yeah, Sharon Tate. That's the one case. I feel like I know more about Sharon Tate than I do the actual cult. So what was their reasoning for this, or what was their, belief system?
I don't really know.
Because I always kind of understood the kind of delusion behind. I don't know the name of it or anything, but I know there's cults that have like all committed, trigger warning here, like ritual suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of understood that more, like the why behind it, but then like the Manson family where they go out and kill others, I never understood the the why or the delusion there, I guess. I don't know if delusion's the right word, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't really understand how they kind of get to these points.
Yeah.
Because the Manson family claims to have murdered even more people. Like there's up to 24 people is what I'm seeing that they basically
Interesting.
claim to have murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's one of them. There's a few different motives, I guess, for what they could have. Charles Manson, believe there was something to do with the with Helter Skelter, which is he was obsessed with the Beatles, I guess, is what it says here, and just like there was something with that.
Isn't that a
Drugs.
Molly Crew song too? Right?
Yeah, I think they have
I think so.
they have a Helter Skelter song too. Drugs, just being like a drug fueled raid, drug fueled like killing spree is
Yeah.
another one. But it just kind of like he was obviously crazy anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
he was he was, a racist. He was, I mean, he had a swastika tattooed on his forehead, like right up between his eyes. So he wasn't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He wasn't. That was when he was older. He wasn't a great person. Like he was just a kind of a crazy person.
I would assume not.
Yeah, and I don't think.
I think that's pretty safe to say.
I don't know that he actually ever got got convicted of actually killing people, because I don't think he ever actually took part in the killings. It was all of his followers that did.
Huh.
Which, I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of these things were the followers that did them. So that's kind of
Yeah.
a
And
normal.
I can talk about like the followers a little bit because I researched is not the right term. I Googled several items, um, both about the side of the people who were following or would join the cults, and then also on the leader side.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who are more likely to be followers or join or be more susceptible to that influence, a lot of them are pretty obvious, you know, teenage runaways, drug addicts, survivors of abuse, especially like childhood abuse,
Mm-hmm.
um, someone going through a major life transition, especially a negative one, sometimes a positive one too, which was kind of surprising, but mostly negative, like losing someone close to you. um, on the positive side, there it actually mentioned like people who have had major life changes, like getting married and things. Just any major life change where your life is like uprooting and not what it was before, you're more susceptible to a lot of things, but especially, you know, the influence of, because not all cults, from what I can tell, are necessarily like negative. There are
Mm-hmm.
some that are very, you know, like ritualistic healing and things, but it's very much a cult, but it's not necessarily like negative to society.
Yeah.
It's just people are more susceptible during those stages of our lives. I like how we just celebrated Nick and Kira getting engaged. I'm like, yeah, if you get married, you're going to join a cult. So Nick and Kira, don't be susceptible.
Please don't. Please don't go join a cult.
Yeah. So that was interesting. A lot of those, they make sense. You know, when you lose your sense of self
Mm-hmm.
or something in your environment has disconnected you from either your own inner self or, you know, society, of course you're going to be more susceptible. Um, and then on the leader side, there's obviously someone who's charismatic, influential. One of the So there's a lot of straightforward things on that side too. But one of the really interesting things I read was this researcher said he found a lot of common threads where someone who can't critique themselves or um you know how a lot of us like do like self-deprecating jokes. You and I do this all the time.
Yeah.
We are
Mm-hmm.
very like self-deprecating.
Yeah.
So they can't do that. So if someone can't be like ironic or self-deprecating to a certain extent, that can also be more of a sign because they see themselves as like on this high pedestal, and it's more so leading to that. So
Hmm.
that was really interesting. I had never thought about someone who can't be ironic or someone who doesn't understand irony or self-deprecation, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But then a lot of the other leader personality types were exactly the same as any leadership personality. You know, you have to be able to motivate people, convince people, you know,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah. I
So
I
I'm
just
sure that there was some part of the Charles Manson that obviously had that, and then these people felt detached and like they needed a family, literally. So
yeah. And all of the leaders are usually described as charismatic.
mm-hmm.
And they can, everybody loves them. They kind of take over people's hearts and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's a common thing with them. It's just amazing
Mm-hmm.
how, like, it's amazing even if you are susceptible with
Mm-hmm.
like some people are, even if you are susceptible and something has happened and you feel like this is become your family or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of the ritualistic, like, suicide, taking your own life and thinking that is
Yeah.
that's the way to whatever is amazing
Mm-hmm.
to me. Heaven's
Yeah.
Gate was one of them. They all,
I've heard that name.
Heaven's Gate was a one from a long time ago too. A lot of these formed in like the 70s, 60s, 70s. Like they all kind of formed at the around the same times, which is interesting. 60s, 70s, 80s.
Drugs and paranoia is what I
Yeah.
think of when I think of that decade.
Heaven's Gate
Decades.
was a group that they believed that extraterrestrials created humans, and that's where they were going to go. There was a comet that passed by, and they all decided that that was their best way to move to the afterlife, is die when that comet passed by Earth. So a bunch of members drank a laced cocktail, and they died. And I think this was the one. Was this the one where they were all wearing the matching tracksuits? It was a weird, like,
They all have like juicy couture tracksuits.
No, they were all wearing like white tracksuits.
That's weird.
And the same. I think this is the same one. The same Nike tennis shoes. They were all wearing the same Nike tennis shoes. They were all wearing matching tracksuits.
Why?
I don't
so
know.
Odd.
I don't know.
They had to go out in style. The fits had to be a vibe.
Yeah, and there
so
was
odd.
I don't remember if that was also the one with the where the Gatorade thing comes from either, because they all kind of mix together when you're like reading them, because they're all so just
because there's so many common threads.
Yeah, there's so many
them,
things that are alike that you kind of
and I always feel. This is like, I get the same feeling when we talk about this that I do with true crime. Like it's so fascinating and just such a morbid way. And so like, I just can't understand. I feel bad for, making jokes, but at the end of the day, I just don't understand how, just like you said, how that is the answer to doomsday and going into the afterlife. It just, yeah. Did the leader also die by suicide also, or was it just the followers?
I think the leader did too in Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
Oh, maybe not. Hold on.
Some delusion there.
1985. When did the thing happen? 39 active members. So it was 1997 when they killed themselves. So one of the leaders died in the 80s. So she obviously didn't. She died before then. The other one, died in 97. So I'm guessing he died with the group. Took his life with the group. So Jonestown was the one that is related to the Kool-Aid. And like where you get the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid from, you've heard that with a cult. Because the cocktail that he used had used cyanide and some other things, and to make it taste better, he didn't mix Kool-Aid in it. It actually turned out to be Flavor Aid, which is basically an off-brand of Kool-Aid, but that's where that comes from. Now, Jonestown
can't even spring for the name for it.
Yeah. So, well, when you hear about it, you might understand a little bit more. Jonestown was it is the largest, until 9/11, was the largest mass death of Americans in history. So 900 people, more than 900 people died in this mass
oh my Lord.
mass suicide. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't just suicides. They also killed a bunch of people. So it was like a big. What? It happened in Guyana, because that's where he had moved his compound, and it was just.
Where's that?
It's in South America.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that was in the 70s. More than 900 people died in what was called the revolutionary suicide, which is just. It's just amazing to me. Like, I understand, and I feel bad for anybody if you have any issues, there are people you can talk to. 988 is the suicide number,
Yeah.
What there, but it is like, I understand if you're having a rough time, people feel that they can't get out of it, and that's the only way out. I don't know how these things happen, where it's hundreds of people that all believe something, that are like, okay, here, like we believe this and this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
just
it is truly wild to me. But I've always been the type of person that I've never needed to know like myself or know my place. A lot of the time I go with the flow, but I could see how if you're that type of person who needs that sense of self, that sense of family, like, oh, I have my church group, I have my book group, I have, if you need that like connection,
mm-hmm.
I get the why of joining a group, but I
Yeah.
don't get the why of these specific
I
groups.
don't know. I don't know how you get it to this
Hmm.
point. I
Yeah,
guess it's
I
I
agree.
guess it's one of those
It's
things when
definitely
you get into
interesting.
it, you just can't. It's just hard to get out. Is the only thing I
Yeah,
can
or you
think
just
of
don't
is
even realize you're in it.
you don't even realize you in it, and then even if you do, it's almost impossible to get out because that's another thing that
It
people have
could be
talked
like
about.
groupthink type.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a group and other people are doing the same thing, it's you have like eagle eye vision of
Yeah.
only that group, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't even realize other people have other opinions
Yeah.
and other ways of lives, and
That's true.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know.
but it is crazy.
Hmm.
It is amazing. Um, and there's some of these, like I said, that are still around. One of them is the Family International, which is mostly online now. Um, there was a cult that still, there was a cult in Japan that still operates. It's mostly
Mm.
online as well. A lot of them have moved online. They don't really have like set meetings of people anymore, which is I don't really know
Yeah.
how it stays around. I guess they're still kind of following what the leaders' beliefs were. There was a cult in Japan that
Hmm.
did attacks. They did an attack on a subway that injured hundreds of people and killed several. In the on the Tokyo subway system, where they
Yeah.
punctured cyanide gas bags in the middle of the subway and then just left. And it's there's some crazy
Gosh.
ones. The one of the ones in the U.S. and you'll probably know this one because most people do. We just had an anniversary of it not too long ago. Was the Branch Davidians? That's the Waco raid and fire that killed a bunch of people in Waco. Um,
I hear people say Waco, but I don't know what happened.
so there was the the Branch Davidians was a kind of a group. Um, a guy came in, took it over. What was his name?
Hmm.
What did he go by anyway? Um, was it David Koresh? Is that his name? I want to say it's David Koresh, but I can't find it. The
Yeah,
Branch
I've heard people
Davidians was a
say Waco, but
the Branch
um,
Davidians was a break off of the Seventh Day Adventist. It was a
oh,
break off of that
weird.
church, or that religion. Um,
Yeah. I know
and
7-Day Adventists are very strict and definitely have their own set of rules and interpret things their own way, but I didn't, yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, so the Branch Davidians. Trying to find it. Yeah, David Koresh. I was correct on that. Okay. Anyway, he kind of came in, took over the group, and
Hmm.
um, kind of brought it up. He had them all living on a compound, and at the
Mm.
same time, he was like building a massive like armory basically, and the U.S. government was like, "Yeah, you can't do that."
Yeah.
They tried to go get the weapons, and there was some issues. There was some crazy stuff. The FBI has said that what happened should have not happened. But
Yeah.
there was a 51-day standoff. And
That's a long
at the
time.
end of it, the FBI started shooting like cans of tear gas and stuff into the building. It caught on fire. There's controversy over whether that was from like a flashbang from the FBI or if the
Hmm.
group said it themselves.
Yeah.
But pretty much everybody that was left in that building died in the fire.
Mm.
Massive, huge thing. 80 more than 80 people died in that tragedy.
Wow.
It was, and that was in the
Yeah,
90s.
51 days.
Yeah, 51 days.
That's
So almost 2
that's
months of a
crazy.
standoff with the FBI and police.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine being because I'm sure it was probably women and children
Oh
and
yeah, it was.
ugh.
There's a little bit of everybody in it because it's
Hmm.
families and whatever.
Yeah.
That actually, that incident is one of the things that inspired the Oklahoma City bomber who bombed the building in Oklahoma City that killed
Oh,
a
I
hundred
didn't
and
know
something
that. I've
people.
been there and I've
Yeah,
been to the
I've been
memorial.
there,
I didn't know that.
been there too, and that's one of the Waco incident is one of the ones that
Mhm.
inspired him too. So
That's
yeah,
so weird.
this is a very downer episode, by the way.
And well, it's one of those things, just like when we do true crime. Yeah, it's not a happy topic, but
No,
we, you and I are very similar, and it like trying to figure out the why is always like such a fascinating journey, whether positive or negative. But
yeah, and it's
it's just
just
obviously
it's
things like cults and true crime and paranormal, like those wouldn't be so popular if we've said this before. Humans always want to know why.
yeah.
And these are just the things that you're like, you just can't, we don't know why. And we will never fully understand the delusions.
Yeah, it's well because there's no like you hear people who talk about it after they've been in it and what they went
Hmm.
through and what they think about it, but it's hard to really find out what people think and why they're in the mindset that they are because they don't think there's anything wrong most of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and if you're out, you obviously either don't believe it anymore or never
Hmm.
did and always wanted to get out. So it's
Yeah.
really difficult, I feel like, to understand how
Hmm.
these things happen. Um,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just,
hard for me because I've never been like oh, I need to be part of this group. I want to be
yeah,
part of this group. Do I
and
have that like hobbies and things that I'm like, oh yeah, this book club sounds fun, but it's not like I need to be,
yeah,
in this
yeah,
club. So that
yes,
also, just because I'm like, no, I can be by myself and I am perfectly happy. So also just the fact that people want to talk to other people a lot of times I don't get, but
yeah, and yeah, because it's just I never have understood cults, and I mean, me and my dad have made jokes about it because there's a lot of times a fine line between a cult and
Mhm.
and just like a church.
Yes.
The line can be very small. A lot of times they come from religious points and from a
Yeah, they
church
just
and
really
kind
take
of
it.
branch off and go into their own
Yeah.
whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Yeah. And this is not like us trashing religion or anything. This is like they take it and pervert it for it's like religious wars and
mhm,
royal families in the past using religion as the basis for decisions and wars.
yeah,
It's people take what should be this spiritual good thing and pervert it for their own needs, wants, desires,
exactly.
whatever. So
Yeah.
it's very much like they take it and make it something that
Yeah.
is, it's not religion
I'm
anymore.
not
Yeah.
trying to bash religion because this is an entire like I said it might start at religion but a lot of things start at religion like it goes to extremes like even past extremes with with
Yes.
what happens. I mean, obviously if you've got 900 people committing a mass suicide, that
Mm-hmm.
is not, you know, I don't I don't know that there's isn't you're not supposed to kill yourself. Like that's one of the I don't know that that's actually in the
Yeah.
Bible or not. Truthfully I've never read the Bible all the way through, so I'm not
I
entirely
think
sure.
it's a deadly sin. I know that, but I
Yeah.
don't know what specifically are the deadly sins in the Bible or on the Ten Commandments. It's not the Ten Commandments either. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just
Anyway,
know it's a sin.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a difficult thing to talk about which is why we're doing it, because we're so good at this.
We're so good at our little hobby here of this podcast.
Everybody loves us. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
Can't even make it through that without laughing.
Yeah. This is like, if you have listened to more than just this episode, you'll know we make ourselves laugh. Hopefully we make you laugh too. I don't know. Yeah. We're not very good at it.
No, we're not very good at this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say on this, because I think we've gone on a while about it. It's just amazing to me. Like I've never, again, like you said, you've never been in a situation where you feel like you need that. I never have either. Yeah. And so it's just, I can't relate, but I'm sure there's people out there that can relate and, understand, like, yes, I feel like I feel alone, and I want to be with somebody, and I want to be with people. And I understand that. Humans were naturally meant to be with other people. Like, we're not meant to be alone. Yes. That's not how we're designed at all. So, I get it. Like, if you feel alone.
For sure. If I didn't have hobbies and a job where I'm literally talking to, almost hundreds of people a week, some weeks, it'd be very different. I probably would want that. I'm just to a point where I'm like, no one talks to me. I don't want to be in any more clubs. Don't make me join your group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just amazing to me sometimes. But I think that means it's time for a fact. Nick, what is your fact for this week?
Yeah, so mine, I don't know if this is the Japanese cult that you were talking about, but and I'm not going to say this right, but Sriniko.
Yep, that is.
I definitely said that wrong. But was officially recognized as a religion in 1989 in Japan. So it started as a mixture of Hindu and Buddhist beliefs, but eventually became the doomsday cult that it's known as now. And so it convinces followers that World War III was coming, and spent like 30 million developing that chemical weapons. Because I think that's the same one that did the subway.
Yep, it is.
Anthrax or whatever.
Yep.
So spent $30 million like developing that plan. But it started as an officially recognized religion in 1989, which is like, that's crazy. That was, in the grand scheme, not that long ago.
Yeah, it's not.
That was wild.
So this, what amazes me is that there's still things like this that happen. And I don't know how many people it takes to become a cult. Like, I don't know what
I don't think there is a definition. That was one of the things I was reading. I don't think we have it said even like US the legal system doesn't even have a definition. I don't know if that was true. I just read through that as I was passing through different things. So I don't know that there's a set definition.
So most of them obviously fly under the radar because nothing ever happens, or they do their own thing and they don't really involve anybody, or they don't hurt anybody. So it's not or they don't hurt anybody enough to where it leads to criminal or legal action or anything like that. But apparently experts believe there are up to 10,000 active cults in the United States.
That's wild. I guess if you consider like any group outside of another organized religion or something that has a leader to be that.
Yeah, I guess.
And so when you said that thing about now they're mostly online for that Japanese one, so if they also consider like different online presences, like cult followings, I could see how that contributes a lot to it too.
Yeah, I can see how that kind of becomes another thing. Because there's a lot of things online that like get into these little groups and like
Yeah.
and kind of do that kind of stuff.
It's the group think. You find an opinion you agree with,
Yep.
and then latch onto it and never stray from it.
Yep.
Yeah. So if that plays into it, I could definitely see.
Yeah.
That better.
Another thing too is just another one of the facts that I thought was interesting was just how many of these that like had these notorious ones that like were horrible are still active today in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And have
even without like their leaders
and have thousands of members still following the same beliefs, which is just crazy. Like, it's just
so this is
amazing.
I just thought of this. How do they know that they're members? Is there like a card you stick in your wallet? Like, how do they know?
They get a lapel pin.
How do they know these cults have members?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody can hear that. The ice cream truck is going by outside my apartment, so I'm hearing ice cream music, and it's been creeping me out lately because it's like the very like, and I'm just like, where's the clown?
Also,
what are we doing?
It's 8:00 at night.
Yeah. Why are you driving through my apartment complex with your ice cream stuff on in the middle of the night? It's creeped me out a couple times, and I've thought I've heard it other places, and it has creeped me out even more when I thought I heard it in other places. I was at work the other night, and at like 3:00 in the morning, I thought I heard it, and I'm like, "What is going on? No, this is not okay. This is not okay."
Kevin's being stalked by the ice cream truck.
Like, oh man. Anyway, on that note, I think we're done for this week. That was a deep episode, folks. We're sorry. Hopefully next week we're talking about Dolly Parton, so that should be a little bit lighter, hopefully.
Yeah.
But anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.